You know, when most people talk about AI, the conversation usually goes straight to jobs, the economy, maybe even some wild doomsday scenario. But today, we're going to talk about something way more personal. We're stepping out of the boardroom and into the living room, the heart of our lives really, to explore how artificial intelligence is already reshaping love, loneliness, and our most intimate connections.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the big picture, what experts think AI will look like in 2040. Then, we'll dive into this weird thing called the loneliness paradox. From there, we'll see how algorithms are changing the game of love, explore the search for what's real, and finally, try to figure out what this all means for our future.
So yeah, let's kick things off with that big picture. Forget about next quarter or next year. We're looking way over the horizon to see how a panel of global experts believes AI will have completely rewired our world in just over 15 years.
This quote, which came from that expert group, just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? This isn't just about faster computers or smarter apps. AI is literally forcing us to ask the biggest questions there are about who we are, what we feel, and what our place in the world is even going to be.
So where are these predictions coming from? Well, they're from a pretty major study by Elon University's Imagining the Digital Future Center. And they didn't just ask simple yes or no questions. They got 328 of the world's top tech minds to really dig deep on the huge shifts we're all about to face.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because a clear pattern starts to show up. Look at the left side, the positives. The experts are pretty optimistic that AI is going to improve these big impersonal systems, things like healthcare, logistics, the economy. But then look at the right side. The pessimism is almost all focused on deeply human stuff. Our privacy, inequality, our rights, our politics. You can feel this tension, right? It's efficiency versus humanity.
And that tension right there brings us to the real core question of this whole explainer. Okay, so the experts are worried about our society and our rights, but what about our hearts? How is this massive tech revolution going to play out in the quiet, personal moments of our lives?
All right, now let's dive into one of the strangest, most counterintuitive things about modern life, how being more connected than ever can somehow leave us feeling more alone.
It really is the paradox of our time, isn't it? I mean, we have these little rectangles in our pockets that can connect us to basically anyone on Earth, and yet, survey after survey shows that people are feeling more and more lonely. So, how can both of those things be true?
To get a handle on this, researchers actually came up with a new term for it, extended loneliness. And the key phrase here is that it's not about a lack of connection. It's the feeling of being surrounded by tons of superficial connections while you're absolutely starving for something meaningful. It's loneliness caused by having way too much of the wrong kind of interaction.
Let's try to make this a little more real. Just picture someone, let's call her Stella. She gets home, and her AI assistant, Syra, welcomes her, puts on her favorite music, organizes her schedule. Her apartment is this perfect, seamless hub of digital interaction. But does that actually fix her loneliness? Or is it just the perfectly designed echo chamber that ends up making her feel even more alone by replacing the chance for real, messy, human connection with this easy, frictionless, simulated care?
So what's actually going on here? Well, sociologist Sherry Turkle gives us some really useful ideas. First, she talks about the tethered self. That's this idea that we're always constantly connected to the network through our phones. We're always on. And that leads us to accept what she calls relationships with less, connections that look like the real thing, but are missing all the deep, vulnerable stuff. Think simulated emotion instead of actual feelings. And that's the paradox in action. All this hyperconnectivity filled with these shallow relationships doesn't make us feel better. It actually creates this vicious cycle that makes us feel lonelier, sending us right back to our screens for a fix that never really works.
Okay, now we're going to get even more personal. We're zooming in from our general feelings about connection to the really high-stakes world of romance, where tech isn't just in the background anymore, it's often the main matchmaker.
I mean, this single number says so much. A 2017 survey in the US found that 39% of straight couples met online. And for same-sex couples, that number jumps to 65%. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't some alternative way to date anymore. For a huge part of the population, this is how relationships start. And as we're about to see, this doesn't just change how we meet, it's changing our entire idea of what love even is.
And this slide illustrates that mindset shift perfectly. Think of it like this. The traditional idea of love is what you could call bestowal. This is where love creates value. You don't love someone because they're perfect. They become perfect for you because you love them and you build a life together. But dating apps push us toward appraisal. This is a total consumer mindset. It's like you're shopping with a checklist, looking for the person who has the best features. The focus shifts from making a relationship to finding a finished product.
This quote from a Tinder user just says it all, right? When you're looking at what feels like an infinite menu of other people, committing to just one can feel like you're losing out. The idea that someone even better might be just one more swipe away, it can be completely paralyzing.
And this leads us right into a psychological trap. Instead of what's called satisficing, which is just finding a partner who is good enough and then building something amazing together, we become maximizers. We get obsessed with finding the absolute 100% mathematically perfect choice. And that not only puts insane pressure on everyone, it can lead to this chronic feeling of dissatisfaction, where you're always wondering if you could have chosen better.
So all this pressure to appraise, to maximize, to present yourself as this perfect product, it brings us right to our next big theme, the search for something real, something authentic, in a world that feels increasingly like a performance. So what do we even mean by authenticity online? Well, at its heart, it's pretty simple. It's when the person you are online, your posts, your profile, your comments, is a true reflection of the person you are on the inside. It's about closing that gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be. But then, there's its deceptive cousin, performative authenticity. This is when being authentic becomes just another role that you play for an audience. It's crafting a post that's meant to look spontaneous. It's sharing a vulnerability that's been calculated to get the most engagement. The goal isn't to be genuine. The goal is to be seen as genuine.
And this table just breaks down the difference perfectly. If you look at the authentic self, the motivation comes from the inside. The goal is real connection. The result is trust and a feeling of being a whole person. The performative self, on the other hand, is driven by external validation. Likes, shares, getting approval. The goal is superficial, the outcome is that it erodes trust, and the psychological cost is huge. It leads to anxiety and this constant feeling that you're not good enough. It is exhausting to keep up that facade.
So, where does all this leave us? We've gone from these huge predictions all the way down to the nitty-gritty of modern love and loneliness. So, let's zoom back out now and try to put all the pieces together.
I really want to come back to this insight from that expert report because it is so important. It's a reminder that we shouldn't fear the tech itself. AI isn't some outside force doing things to us. It's a tool, it's a mirror, and it magnifies our own tendencies, our desires, our fears, our wisdom, and our mistakes. The technology is neutral. What matters is the choice we make when we use it.
All right, so to wrap this all up, here are the big things to take away from our exploration today. First, AI is forcing us to have a really deep conversation about what it even means to be human. Second, this paradox of extended loneliness shows us how having tons of shallow connections can actually starve us of real ones. Third, technology is shifting how we think about love from something we create to something we consume. And finally, in a world full of performance, the real challenge is to fight for genuine authenticity, not just fake it for an audience.
And that leaves us with this one last huge question. Every time we build an algorithm to find a partner, or an AI to keep us company, or a platform to share our lives on, we're not just engineering technology, we are engineering the future of what it means to be human and to connect with each other. We are making choices that will define everything. So the real question isn't what our machines are going to become, it's what we are choosing to become, right alongside them.